let's do it.
Welcome to Life Unleashed. I'm your podcast host, Sierra Cooper, and today we have DJ Ziggy here with us. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's freezing up there, and your father unfortunately just passed away today, so thank you for coming on the show and being with us. You sent me a very long email about a little bit of your background, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what got you into what you do today, and pretty much what inspired you.
Well, youth-wise, I spent most of my grown-up years in Alaska. I lived with my dad. My dad was in the military for most of my youth and growing up, but he had been a disc jockey and worked on radio back in his day. Having worked for KTEL Marketing, offline, you and I had spoke about my dad's career. He had worked in KTEL Marketing, KTEL Records, which also became part of KTEL America's Top 40. Well, my dad being drafted, that left a vacancy at KTEL Records for a DJ to take over where my dad was at to continue hosting that show. And lo and behold, Casey Kasem was hired. So
What a focal point, right? Because Casey Kasem, everybody knows Casey Kasem. In fact, I think he had a house. I'm in Southwest Florida, of course. He had a house on Minnesota Key Road, I believe, so not very far from where I live.
Oh, okay. Well, it's definitely warmer down where you're at. So,
Yes, it is.
I'm in
Absolutely.
I'm in kind of South Central Alabama where I'm at now today, and I'm glad to be here. Except, however, last night we had snow and the wind's blowing and it's cold and it was below freezing, and we're gonna see 10 days of below, freezing here. That's big for
Yeah,
us.
a lot of negatives. I know, a lot of negatives. So tell me a little bit about Casey Kasem came on board, and how did that shift everything with your father as well? Did
Well,
he go into more marketing?
No, actually, my dad was drafted then into the Vietnam War, and he did
Okay.
officer candidate school in the Air Force and went on to the Army. And for me as a kid, though, I started getting exposed to music. My dad couldn't let the music go, so he would DJ on back in the 70s. It was like reel to reel. So he would
Hmm.
get records and find the hit songs, and he would record those songs, and then he would then turn around and give me a pair of scissors and mark the tape, and I would be cutting tape and splicing things together so that when my dad went out to do events and stuff, he would just have to push play and the music would just blend and roll through on these tape to tape reels that he was doing full time. So
Hmm.
I got to hear the radio, be around the radio. A little guy named Wolfman Jack was a
Oh
big,
yeah.
yeah, was a big influence in my life in the youth listening to him. Of course, Wolfman Jack broadcast from south of America on a 250,000 watt radio station AM that made it at nighttime all the way to Alaska where I was living, and we would listen to Wolfman. Little did I know later in my career I'd have the opportunity to work with Wolfman Jack, and as a big influence in my life, working with him, I got then he had like the Wolf Zone. We ended up kind of copying some of his late night renditions, and it became the Zig Zone. And so, you
Very
know,
cool. Very cool. Very catchy name. Where did Ziggy come from?
a bunch of biker buddies said this is what they're going to call me, and I must have done something. I think they thought they saw me pop over a fence, and they couldn't remember Kilroy, but they could remember Ziggy. And once upon a time, I weighed about almost 300 pounds, and so you look
Wow.
Ziggy the cartoon character, and you look at that, and you look at me and my little bald head popping over the top of it, you know. you
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, well, as in Ziggy just stuck, and we took it to radio and television, and it just become kind of a common name now
And
for me
so
more than anything.
So what was one of your first big projects that put you out there? I mean, what was the one thing that really got your name out there and got you well known?
Well, I worked in marketing radio and did the voice of Evil Barney. And so first round big market radio, Portland, Oregon, late 90s, early 2000s, I was the voice of Evil Barney. And so that made it into the market. However, when I went to a little independent radio station that was broadcast right out just down the street from where I'm at here in South Central Alabama, I asked the station manager, I said, look, we're independent, so I can do what I want, right? He said,
Hmm.
yeah, within limits. Well, I missed the within limits part, and he
Mhm.
allowed me then to be creative. However, and he didn't like some of the stuff I did at first, but then the ratings started to pop up, and we started to see the radio growth. And then with the internet and being able to reach out, we started getting a following of markets around Japan, New Zealand,
Oh,
Europe,
wow.
Germany. So our little Friday night show that was Friday Night Live, bringing musical artists in, locally, then from, again, developing into getting music from around the world. We went back to a simple format that Wolfman Jack followed, and that was open the doors, leave them unlocked, allow people to walk in, party in the parking lot,
Hmm.
and build bonfires and have a great time. Free America.
Sure.
And we had artists started calling in. I remember one time on the show, Tommy Two Tone from 867-5309. He, he
Hmm.
he calls a radio station on the live line. He's drunk as a skunk. And he's like, "Hey man, Ziggy, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey Mike, Tommy, you're on the radio, you're live, just so you know." "All right, Zigman, hey." We had a 15-minute interview with Tommy Two Tone just off the cuff, you know.
That's
Um,
great.
we got new music. We always got the new hits. I'd get artists, both A-list artists and other bands and stuff, just sending me stuff saying, "Hey, this is going to be a hit. Play it."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they weren't asking for money, so we could, and we did, and
Yeah.
we played it. The other thing is we got out of our comfort zone while we were a classic rock station. I do
Hmm.
remember a band we interviewed out of Michigan. It was wintertime, kind of like this, and we wanted to get them
Yeah.
on. We wanted to get them on the show because their band name was called the Heat Pumps.
The
Um,
heat pump.
the,
That's unique.
yeah, and it was cool, and that's the only reason we talked to them because their music sucked. Uh, but the,
Okay.
but the band name was cool. But 2 minutes into the interview, they started dropping the F bomb. Well, we were tape delayed, so we could drop out 7 seconds and then remind them, "Hey, we're live on the air. Don't use the F bomb."
Sure.
Some people don't like it. Everybody seems to think there's an FCC rule on not using that word, but it's not. There isn't one. It's just don't do it. It's just there's a
Hmm.
list of words you don't say on the radio. And
Exactly.
he goes, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to do that, but thanks a lot. We sure effing appreciate you." And we dropped him with a half a second left and then had to drop him off altogether. So the heat pump, we never even got to their music, which is probably good. And then I got hate mail from his sister for like a month after that because we cut him off the radio and wouldn't let him talk. So
Of course. So, and that's how it always goes, right? You always have one or two in there in the mix where when you interview them, they just don't know how to be interviewed. So, after that, moving forward, so you must have been pretty young, correct? I mean, you were in your 20s or 30s or.
I did Evil Barney in the 30s. I went to the classic rock station in my 40s.
Mhm.
And we hung with that for a while, just beating out local market stuff, but the international impact that we had was fantastic. And, shortly after that, then we got the Star of Fame, the little radio DJ Walk a Star of Fame thing on the,
Mhm.
I got one of them stars and I don't even know where it is. I've never, I don't remember where it's at. I have to go look it up. But
So for you though, as a DJ, right? So you've traveled all over the place. So where has some of your favorite memories been made?
as far as travels,
As far as travels and doing what you do, people that you've met, people that you've came across, maybe a few that not a whole lot of people have heard of and made a big impact on your career.
well, I think the biggest thing is to remember that it's all showmanship.
Hmm.
You meet a person like Garth Brooks or Taylor Swift, and they're just people like you and I,
Hmm.
and you can have a conversation just like this, and we joke about stuff and whatever. And you know, Garth had just come out with a song called "Mom," and it wasn't available for purchase, but he had done it on one of the national shows, like Good Morning America or something. He played it live,
Hmm.
and I had a
Hmm.
family that she wanted to dance to that song with her song, with her son for a wedding, and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Garth, excuse me." I called him And that was probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And I said, hey,
Hmm.
I'd sure like to get that song. And he sent me a link, and I was able to download the whole album. And I was grateful
That's
for that.
awesome.
When Taylor Swift was less popular than she is right now, I used to
Hmm.
have her, she would call me voice messages for, people that were becoming Taylor Swift fans, and, hey, congratulations on your wedding. And we sure appreciate
Hmm.
you. Hi, this is Taylor. And, to
Yeah.
Jimmy and John, good for you. But all of these guys, they're just people, and they just become your friends. I don't look at them as stars. They're just ordinary people. And that's the way we develop those relationships in that industry. It's just by
Hmm.
being good to them, and they'd be good to us.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so now, what are you working on now for some of your new and upcoming projects? I have a feeling you probably have a few that are going to be a lot of fun because you look like a fun guy. You seem like a fun guy. The last couple of times I've talked to you, you seem like you get your creative juices flowing and then you're off to the races.
Well, we're seeing a big push in the social media market. It's been pretty simple to just throw something up on social media. We're looking at some going back to our comedy roots, coming up with just spoofs and playoffs. So we're not sure. It's kind of like we're gonna just throw shit on the wall and see what sticks. But we're looking.
That's usually the best way to do it,
Yeah.
actually. It's just kind of a free for all.
And that's what we're doing, and we're just throwing it out to see what sticks. Because I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff that I thought was funny or entertaining, that I thought, oh, for sure, this is going to go big, is probably
Hmm.
some of our biggest flops. And then some of the stuff where we're just natural and just being goofballs, it takes a run for it. I kind of laughed a little bit as I was coming in here to talk to you. I was sharing with some of my folks that, in phone calls, they're like, look, we talked about social media, the way to get follows, likes, and people's attention. I said, just have a family member die every 2 weeks and post that on social media. Because that's been, I've gotten more
That's
responses off of my poor dad
sad to
passing away.
say, but yes, sad to say, but yes, definitely. That's for sure. I have to say, when you look at the entertainment industry, it's really shifted and changed throughout probably the last 35, 40 years. And through all that change and being involved with that, what have you seen the biggest highlights, the biggest pros, since you do have a little bit of a season pass with doing this for so long, compared to some of the new guys that are just starting out now?
Well, you know what, it's hard. This is a hard market. And I had a conversation with Wolfman Jack back in the late 90s, and we talked about this at length. And one of the things that he just said to me, and I worked for Art Linkletter also in my career, and all of them just said, just stay focused on you. Don't try to hit everything. But it's going to be harder because right now, it used to be everybody would listen to me on the radio because that's all they
Hmm.
had as options. Now we've got
Hmm.
social media platforms. You've got, you'll be watching YouTube and there's ads in between YouTube. Your Snapchat's got ads. All the platforms are throwing, even Facebook now has got where you're watching something and like Reels or something, and an ad pops in the middle or something like that. And,
Hmm.
so from an advertising standpoint, what people don't realize is that, well, I can be an entertainer. The real money, though, is if can I sell it? I've got to have someone buy
Hmm.
it, and the advertising part
Exactly.
of it. Yeah. So the best advice I ever got from a radio station guy was, "What's our job here?" And to me, as a young announcer, young radio personality, it's like, well, my job is to, go on the radio, be funny. That's the whole thing, is to provide entertainment to our customers. And he
Hmm.
said, no, our job here is to sell ads. We're in the
Hmm.
marketing industry. You give me content and people will follow and they'll do it. And I can throw ads in the middle, but our job is to sell ads. So that's been the biggest challenge. And that's what, Wolfman and I were talking about, was that, how are we going to continue to find compensation and make a living doing this, when there's so many platforms and we're so spread out
Yeah.
everywhere you look, there's something different, and which is the right platform.
Wouldn't you agree that meeting somebody that is more relatable to you if you're trying to sell something. They're going to trust you a lot more than just going for a free for all, whatever is out there. I find that I like to be more in personal rather than impersonal. Of course, marketing, advertising, everywhere is one thing, but I think the more personally you know people, the more advantages, the more connections that grow from that.
Well, that's certainly helpful. Yeah, I'm by no means an A-list person. When everybody says Jennifer Aniston, we know who she is, or Adam
Mm-hmm.
Sandler, we know who he is. You
Mm-hmm.
hear my name, it's not necessarily a name you'll remember, and I don't have a COPD commercial or anything out there to, you know, yet. Give me a second.
Yeah,
Um, you
yeah.
know, but but the best thing you can do when somebody doesn't know you or you're not that A-list person that they're looking to is to be relatable and say, hi, you know, tell me what you're thinking and feeling and let me, be real about it and not try to be fluffball. You see a lot of these guys, I see everybody trying to sell those weight loss programs. I don't know, pick one. I don't,
GLP-1.
you
Yes,
know,
those
you
are
know,
huge now.
but then you get everybody doing this independent marketing, and you've got all these people that are saying, "Hey, call me, I'll show you how to do this," and they're regurgitating, a script, and how about just talk to somebody about it and be
Mm-hmm.
real? I met with a
Mm-hmm.
car dealership. A guy owns a bunch of like tire auto places that
Mm-hmm.
I called him. I just saw him this last week. I hadn't seen him in probably 12 years. And what he said to me was he remembered the phone call that I made to him, asking him to bring his dealership onto the air, or his auto repair places. We were trying to get him to buy marketing. We were trying to get him to spend
Mm-hmm.
money with us. And,
Sure.
and he remembered the genuine, fun, entertaining conversation that we had, and he still today, 12 years later, remembers that interaction. And so the best thing to do,
So
so be
one of
real.
the yeah, so one of the biggest questions to you is, what's some of the biggest projects that you've worked on that were the most challenging for you?
Well, I think the one that I had the most fun was when I worked with USA Today, doing the Super Bowl party. We were doing a tailgate Super Bowl party in Atlanta, and we
Mm-hmm.
expected somewhere around 65,000 to 100,000 people.
A
And
lot of
so,
people.
yeah, and then, of course, me mixing it up with some of the musical artists that we were going to have on stage. It was a big budget for what we were doing, and it was challenging just to make sure everything is timed right. I just did one for the Veterans Bowl. I forgot the name of the dang thing now, but it's a Veterans Bowl that's actually held every year now, and they've just taken it over. And getting the talent on stage, figuring out a lot of people that put these events on are they don't know how to put the events on, and they come in and I'll ask them questions for what we need to help them be successful, and they don't have a script. They don't know where
They
people
have no
are.
clue.
They're
They
just,
don't even
yeah,
know where to start.
they
So they're
just see.
looking to all of you to come in and actually do their job for them,
Well,
essentially.
well, we come in, and what our challenge is to come in and save them, because they don't look to us until it's the day of. And then when we start asking questions of how we would expect to see it organized, they don't have it organized that way. And even in big market stuff with, Fox and even NBC events and things like that, we've walked into stuff. Even USA Today events, we did an event for them on a big, gigantic stadium. And when I walked in to ask them about all the things that I would have expected as far as scripting, announcing, sponsors, none of that was consolidated. We had to kind of walk around and take notes ourselves and figure it out, and make them look good. So what you see on TV, is an end cut. It's after we've gone through and fixed everything behind the scenes. But we've done it enough that we can adapt. And that's the biggest thing, with all this, is being able to adapt, to be able to ad lib, fill in the blanks, be funny, come up with jokes, interact with the people. And then our job is to basically tell folks sometimes that their baby's ugly, but make them feel good about it.
It's a good way of putting it. So you're one of the guys that a lot of big name companies and vendors actually seek out, and they say, "Hey, Will you do this for Super Bowl? Will you do this? Will you do that? Now, in the interim of all of this, because I know you travel a lot, is it hard dealing with some of the entertainment industry, trying to coordinate everything? Because I would imagine if these people are kind of dropping the ball and they're looking to you and to a few other really important people, do you kind of have to wing it yourself? Is it kind of up in the air sometimes? You hope it comes together, or how does that work?
Well, I am the worst going into an event. I am a worrywart going into events. I'm probably the most nervous and uncomfortable person because I want everything to be so right and so good. And so I'm always asking a lot of questions from my staff, from the event people. I'm trying to do as much homework, but if anything, then I'll walk out too. If we're doing a public event and there's people in the audience, I'm gonna go get to know the audience ahead of time so that when I interact with the audience, I have an idea of who the client is.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the simplest stuff makes people happy. Um,
Sure.
just the simplest touching of stuff, touch a mom's kid. Well, everybody in the whole audience is going to be great with that. They're, oh, so nice.
It's her
Um,
birthday or it's his birthday or something's
yeah.
going on or they're sick or ill or something else. And so,
One of the things that we did, I just did this, we just did a big ice arena thing for professional hockey.
mhm.
And one of the things I asked them to do is to make sure that we had a list of birthdays, but get pictures of the kids and post them up there, parents, whoever, and put them on the big Supertron over the top of the ice, you
Oh,
know.
very cool.
So
Very
then,
cool.
and then they built it in first and third period where we talked about birthdays, and gave a big salute out to everybody. And how cool is that to have the other thing that we started adding to the program was having a veteran of the game, having one guy in the audience identify who he was, get to know who he is, and then have the cameras come on him. And we actually have full stadiums of people stand up, standing ovation as we read the history about this veteran. Again, that's creating those
That's
heartfelt, touching
amazing.
moments. And, I'm a veteran. I flew helicopters. I was a warrant
Well,
officer. I flew Blackhawks. I did
thank
all
you
that.
for your service. I
Yeah.
come from a military family, so thank you for your service.
But,
That's there's very unique people that are a part of the service, and it takes a lot for somebody to be in those shoes and to fill those shoes. So
well, and we have gotten to the side where we get the thank you for your service stuff so often. And I recognize this from being a veteran. It's so often that we got to come up with other ways. So I watched the interaction. I see these guys wearing these veteran hats that says, like Vietnam vet and, or Gulf Storm, Gulf War vet. And I was always thinking like they were glory seekers looking for pats on the back. They just weren't thank you for your service
hmm
until I
I
saw
agree.
until I saw my dad though wearing seeing another guy with a Vietnam hat on. He walked up to him and said, "Hey, I sure like your hat. I was in the Vietnam War." So now it became more of a name tag for veterans. So I got my dad a Vietnam hat and I put his rank on it so they understood what he did and where he was at. And now I watch these guys migrate to each other to talk about their experiences and their commonalities. And us creating those special moments where it wasn't about him getting you or I to say, "Hey, thanks for your service," but more to say, hey, to the other veteran that he didn't know, uh, I see you're,
Exactly.
I see you're a Vietnam vet. Let's talk about that because that was such a big part of our life. Let's reminisce. And I saw the value in that. And so those are the kind of heartfelt moments that I could have never predicted. But we've started to watch that and see if we can't build that into some of our programs as well. And so
Well,
that's
I
what,
think I think the humility of it is so important, and I mean, I can definitely tell that your father raised you right, because I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he had to be so proud of you for everything you've accomplished and everything you're still doing now, but to go through all those chapters, and especially it's such a beautiful story that your father kind of helped guide you in that direction. and you did so very well with it. You are doing so very well with it. What would you say to young people today that are looking uh, to deal with the entertainment industry at that extent? What tips would you give them uh, to really be aware of going into it?
Be humble. Be humble. You might get a break, but don't turn around and go, look at me. Nothing that is more offensive in this industry by producers
Hmm.
is to see
I
somebody
agree.
that gets put into a part, gets a role, gains a movie role or something like that,
Hmm.
and then turns
Hmm.
around and says, I'm the greatest. You
Hmm.
know, I have a great disdain for Morgan Wallen right now because
Oh,
he's gotten into fame and then turned around and made
yes,
comments that were quite inappropriate or quite inappropriate in
I
his,
agree.
you know, um, gosh, what's his name? Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber had
Oh,
his moments where he made that fame quick and he didn't make good decisions. And there's still a few things that Justin's not doing, but he's maturing. Um, but then
hmm.
jump over and look at a guy like Justin Timberlake. Um, humble, respectful, funny, interactive, does things,
Hmm.
and he's gone on late shows and developed relationships with, they're his friends that he's hanging out
Hmm.
with, and they're creating fun moments and they're opening their doors up into their lives. Social media, Jessica Alba is, doing great things and
Agree.
but family oriented, again, names we know and remember, but creating a new image and flipping over, even God forbid, Paris Hilton has even turned a leaf over and gone in a different direction. So, you know,
Yes, yes. Well, I think you come to a point, right, with anything you do and where success and money and power and all kinds of things are involved. And when you're turning over a new leaf and growing, if you don't stay centered on who you are, then a lot of people can kind of influence that and make you go astray the other way. And you just gave us some very good examples of that. And so when you, going back to you for a minute, when you started growing, what made you centered? What kept you leveled? Because I know you're super busy, and people that get into that constant travel routine for work, which is your passion, I can tell. But what keeps you centered from not doing the wrong things, from not going over the edge?
I think the adverse impact of doing something that could affect your image. We try to keep our image clean. Now, I'm guilty of saying some stuff here and there from time to time that probably wasn't the best thing, but I've learned from working with Wolfman Jack again how to find something about somebody and say it, but then turn around and make them laugh at themselves and feel good about it.
We
Um,
all need to laugh at ourselves.
you
I
know,
totally agree with that. Everyone's so serious.
the other
And
side, go
there's
ahead.
nothing better than a sense of humor.
Well, yeah, and so the other side of that is that, I think one year we counted that I was in front of probably close to 1 million people. And through social media and following platforms and stuff, I still, even though we've tempered back, I've had to temper back because of taking care of my dad over the past few years. And I've had to turn down some movie roles and things like that because of production schedules. At
You
the end
said
of
Tom Cruise. You were supposed to be in a movie with Tom
the,
Cruise.
yeah,
Which one
yes.
was that?
Sorry, Tom. He did a Civil War movie that was filmed over in Mississippi back in, he was
Hmm.
filming in 2017. I don't remember the title of the movie, but they had a role for me because I guess I had the look. And and so I don't
That's
know,
a compliment.
but I asked him, I said, hey, can you give me a production schedule? I had just started flying back for the airline. I love to fly airplanes, and
Hmm. I do
like
too.
I was walking around at a Sun and Fun event, and one of the regional carriers was doing interviews, and so I showed up in shorts, flip flops, and an old straw hat, and I interviewed and got hired. And it was about the same time that I got asked to do that movie with Tom. And I was like, production schedule? And they couldn't give me one. So I couldn't work it around training and I had to say no. So, you know,
Well, out of curiosity, how do you pick and choose? I mean, so when you get to a certain level, right, and you have people reaching out to you to collaborate with you, how do you personally pick and choose? Because I know a lot of people they'll say, well, it depends on how much money they'll give me for this role or this or that. What's it been like for you? How do you choose what you do?
I do it because it sounds like fun or because I know the person. You and I met 12
Hmm.
years ago, and we stayed in
Hmm.
touch. And here I am on your podcast,
Again,
you
I
know,
know, I
and, you know,
know. I don't
and
even remember how that happened, but it did somehow. And it's so funny because Um, I've had some really, really interesting people through my life that I really enjoyed meeting, but I have to say, all my favorites have been people like yourself that I can sit and really teach people or show people like, hey, like you said, people are normal. But be able to have a platform where, people that are not in congruency or alignment with their past, they can hear people with your success talk about, okay, this is how I kind of did it. I kind of stayed in this lane. And I agree with you about the fun because I just said today on the show that pretty much if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
you're not, and you can't do this. You can't go into show business and think that it's necessarily going to be your career or that it's going to be your
Mm-hmm.
sole income. We've got to have
Mm-hmm.
lots of feelers out there. You know, I get
Mm-hmm.
it now where people are calling me for stuff. I don't have to advertise or market. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't because, I've got ways for people to get in touch with me through various platforms and through our agent and through our online access and then I just look at what it is and I decide if I have time to do it or not. My schedule stays so full that I can pick and
I
choose.
imagine.
And I have the
I imagine.
yeah, and I've got the freedom of picking and choosing what I want to do now. And it's not always about the money. It's really
Yeah,
not. It's now we're at a point now
exactly.
where I don't really need the money and I can
Mm-hmm.
do the stuff that's fun and it just naturally happens. And when you're natural and not, oh, give me this, overly eager,
Exactly.
then
Exactly.
you're more relaxed and you're more appealing to people. When you're needy, people don't want to deal with you, you know? If you're sick,
So what what's
why do
some
you
of
call
your,
me 6 times, you know?
oh, well, nobody likes anyone that's overly needy. So, what's some of your favorite things that you do? Like if you had a list of five things that you've done that are your favorite, like go-tos, go-to events with people, who would you say that would be?
Well, we talked earlier about going back to relationships and now
Hmm.
it's to the events that I enjoy doing the most are the ones that are for my friends. Hey, I'm
Hmm.
going to have a 50th birthday party. Will you come over and toss up some sound equipment and stuff? And then I show up with the whole lighting and sound trailer, and there's lasers and,
Hmm.
smoke. And I'm
Hmm.
doing it because it's fun. Um,
Hmm.
and those are the kind of events I like doing. I used to do like high dollar iron weddings. So if a star, like
Hmm.
I did do one for a couple new kind of well-known news people that we see on a national platform,
Hmm.
sports ESPN announcers and stuff where,
Sure.
guys or girls alike are getting married and they'd be like, hey, I don't do fandom. I don't do pictures. I don't post social media. That when we go to the wedding, what happens at the wedding stays at the wedding. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've seen lots of these stars on TV slosh ass drunk, you know, my brother.
Yeah, you don't want to put that out on social media. That's the last thing
No, it's
you
you gotta
need.
there is personal and private and then there's business and you gotta let people let their hair down and that's probably why they call me because I don't need to I'm not trying to climb on so I'm not TMZ,
Exactly. Oh, I know they're terrible.
you
So,
know.
and And so you must have been into music all of your life, right? Music was a big part of your
It
life.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
so
And
they say that this was a face that was perfect for radio. I got a face for radio.
you do, you
You
do.
know,
So what was some
that
of
way you
your
don't have
favorites
to
growing
that way you
up?
don't have to look at me, you just have to listen.
You got to listen to you. Absolutely. What was some of your favorite people growing up that you really idolized?
I had the opportunity to travel with Art Linkletter, and that for me was more like getting an opportunity to spend time with my grandparent that I missed
Hmm.
dearly and didn't get to see a whole lot. Sitting with him was fantastic, and as we sat at an airport one day in North Carolina, and he's looking at me, we're both eating a bowl of chicken. And I used to eat everything that he would eat. I wouldn't even order what I liked. I was going to sit with Grandpa and eat a bowl of chicken noodle soup and eat an apple.
Hmm.
And we always had security. There was always a sheriff with us. But I remember Art telling me about the White House, talking about George W. and sharing about his life growing up and how he started, and how he started with a little compact little tape recorder and just walked the streets and recorded stuff and interacted and had just relationships. And then he would come back and dub it out and make a radio show out of it. I remember him telling me about walking into the White House and talking to George W. Bush. And George W. walks into the Oval Office where Art had been sitting for a good 30 or 45 minutes by himself, unattended. He said, now, granted, I probably had a camera up my ass and didn't even know it, but I'm sitting in there in the Oval Office looking at where the president sits, and George W. walks in, and I go to stand up and shake his hand, and George says, "No, no, Mr. Linkletter, please sit down. Don't get up. My mom called, Barbara Bush, and said to take great care of you because you've spent more time with all the presidents that he had visited over the years. You spend more
Hmm.
time in the White House than I have."
Hmm.
So, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then Art went on to tell me that if I ever needed to know anything about what was going on in the White House, to ask the staff, because the staff, the people that vacuum the floors, generations of people that have worked
Oh,
there,
absolutely.
they know
Absolutely.
everything.
They saw it all.
So,
They
and
saw
that
it all. They got all the dirt in every single corner, I'm sure, of the
and that,
White House. But,
and then he turned it
but
around and then he finished that sentence with, he says, "By the way, Ziggy, your responsibility then, now being the next generation of radio television guy, is to make sure that everybody knows, because the staff told me that Hillary Clinton is a bitch."
that's
So
so
I
true.
had to stick there in
That's
there.
so true. Yes. I have to ask you too. Um, I mean, since today is so prominent, I mean, your father passed, he started you off in this wonderful journey. Can you see like maybe either writing a book or doing something special, maybe kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit, doing something in memory of uh, things not only that you've accomplished, but the people that helped get you to where you're actually at?
Well, I hope that some author will see the value in that and come talk to me and we'll collaborate. That way I can tell the story and they can write it down and they can edit it and then they can put a cover on it. You know, I don't mind sharing. I just don't know if I don't know if I have the time and the schedule to do a book. So someone's gonna have to follow me around.
You sound very, very busy, and I'm sure you've got a lot of upcoming events. Anything special coming up this year that you're looking forward to actually doing or participating in?
I'm waiting to hear what our international schedule is going to be. I'm going to take a little time to travel and do some things this year I haven't been able to get out and do just for my own self. But I'm
Hmm.
also waiting to hear what possibly our international schedule is going to look like, and get out and do some. I like being in the tropics. I like getting down in the islands. And
Hmm.
so I did have a request one time to do an event over in Morocco. I kind of wouldn't mind going out and doing that now. And
Sure.
and I really don't know. I'd have to look at the schedule and ask. I don't know that I've been so distracted here lately. But I'm not sure where the next. Oh, I do have one. I'm actually going to Charleston, South Carolina in August. I'll be in Charleston in August for a massive event there, and we're expecting a massive, huge turnout of folks, and so I'm looking forward to being out on that Eastern Coast, and so, but it's gonna be August, so.
Well, it's Charleston though. Charleston's always fun. It's always a great time. I love the Carolinas. So if people want to keep up with you and get connected to you in some way, shape, or form, or people that maybe want to work with you, where can they find you? Can they kind of sink in with you?
So we have a contact sheet it goes to our agency on powersoundsusa.com.
Hmm.
And they can reach through there. My cell phone's actually listed on there. I don't answer messages usually if I don't know somebody, but if someone
Hmm.
shoots me, text messaging, that's the thing, man. I get so much scam messaging,
I
about,
do too.
hey, how many loans do you want to take out this year? Or, what What's the other
Yeah.
one is, oh, I've got, so I have an out of state area code telephone number that doesn't even correlate to where I live. And, so they're asking me to do events in the area of that area code. And I know right out then it's a scam, because I don't do anything in that area code at all ever. And so,
Hmm.
but I always, I'll throw it back at them like, oh yeah, if it's only going to be at this location, for 4 hours, we'll do it for like $65,000, and we like cash. Cashier's checks work real well. We won't accept checks. And we won't do direct deposit, Venmo, or any of the other apps where you can come back and try to claim that we stole your money. So, but if you want to send me a cashier's check, or you want to have your person come give me cash, then then we'll talk about it. And you
So,
know,
and besides the music and the DJ and everything here real fast too, because I want people to understand this, is you had spoke about besides acting, also comedy. So professional comedians. Now you also work on projects with professional comedians, is that right?
well, we've done that, but then I've got a whole set where I may actually get back on stage again now that I have a little bit of break in the schedule. So, maybe you'll see something in the future on television.
No, that's great. I love to laugh. I love to laugh. So if you're gonna get on stage and make me laugh, I'm there.
Well, our conversation this morning with me and my family was about the religion of more men, and not Mormons, but more men. And so and we were trying to figure out, what that book would look like. Perhaps it would be from the prophet Long John rather than just John. So, we've been
That's
kind of,
great.
again, one of those things where you just throw things on the wall and you see what everybody
See
laughs
what
to. And
sticks.
and if my
Absolutely.
yeah, and if my family will laugh about it because I'm not being too much of a dork, because it's actually funny, as opposed to, laughing with me as opposed to laughing at me, then, and we might throw it in a script.
There we go. Well, hey, listen, Ziggy, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. God bless you. God bless you and your family. I can't wait to see what you do. And obviously, we're Facebook friends, and I follow you, and I try to see what's going on in your world. And hopefully, I'll have you back on the show.